All right, so the reason why I called you all here today was to discuss a video that's been going around on social media. And we also received a couple of inquiries with regard to the incidents that occurred last night relative to that video. And I'm going to read a statement, and then I'll answer any questions relative that you might have concerning that video, okay? So the incident occurred in the 500 block of Bay Street near North Goodman Street at approximately 12:35 this morning in the area of 500 block of Bay Street. An officer observed a 23-year-old male walking erratically in the middle of the street. 4 minutes later, at 12:39 a.m., the officers observed the male smash a Hennessy bottle in the street, at which time the officers did step out with the male in an effort to engage him in front of a residence in the 500 block of Bay Street. While trying to check on the individual, the male shouted to officers multiple times, "Are you going to kill me? Kill me. Gangster, I wish you would kill me." The male was pacing back and forth in the middle of the street in a fighting posture, continuing to repeat the aforementioned. Officers attempted to detain the male as he continued to walk in the middle of the roadway. Officers at this point were concerned with the well-being of the individual. The male resisted attempts by officers to place the individual into handcuffs and fought with the officers, and at one point did bite an officer during the struggle. The male was arrested after a brief struggle with the officers. During the arrest, the male was pepper sprayed, after which the male stated he couldn't breathe. The male was ultimately transported to the hospital where he was treated and released. While at the scene, he was treated by EMS personnel. The individual is currently in the Monroe County Jail on assault second charges for the biting incident of the officer. The officer who was bit was treated at Rochester General Hospital and released. During the arrest, another male, 21 years of age, just stepped out of his home where the initial arrest occurred and started to record the arrest on his cell phone. The male who was recording did approach the officers, and after being told to stay back by the officers, was subsequently arrested. This male was subsequently taken into custody in the entryway of his residence on Bay Street after a brief struggle. After being transported to the hospital and treated for minor injuries, the 21-year-old, the individual who was recording the incident, was issued an appearance ticket for obstructing governmental administration in the second degree and resisting arrest. After learning of this video being circulated on social media, members of my command staff and I did come in this morning to review the body-worn camera footage of the involved officers to include the video circulating on social media. After reviewing the video from this incident and the officers' body-worn camera footage, I have consulted with the district attorney and decided to not pursue the charges of obstructing governmental administration and resisting arrest. The aforementioned charges are in relation to the individual who was recording the initial arrest on his cell phone. Upon review of the camera footage, I find that there is no justification nor evidence to support the charge of obstructing governmental administration, as there was no physical force, physical interference, or threat of physical force or physical interference to prevent or attempt to prevent the officer from making a lawful arrest. In addition to the steps outlined, I have directed the professional standards section to begin an investigation into the first arrest and the subsequent arrest of the individual who was recording. And at this point, I'll take your questions.
How was the second individual injured?
It was just a complaint of pain, and he went to the hospital and was treated and released and was given an appearance ticket.
Obstruction. Just talk to us about that. You know, when we typically see that charge, what are we looking at?
Well, obstructing government administration, typically what you're looking for is some sort of physical interference or physical intimidation that prevents an officer from doing a lawful duty. In this case, the individual, based on the body-worn camera footage that I have seen and the video on social media, I find that there was not enough evidence to support the charge of obstructing governmental administration as well as resisting arrest. The individual appeared to not have physically interfered with the arrest of the officers or any type of physical intimidation to prevent the officers from affecting the arrest of the initial incident that they were trying to effect the arrest on.
So you think the officers got it wrong?
Well, I tell you what, I'm standing here letting you know that we're no longer going to pursue those charges. I find that there is no justification at this point to merit those charges. Police officers, the officers at a particular point in time have to make a split-second decision where I have an opportunity to look at the entire process, not in a stressful environment. Certainly, officers, have to take control of certain situations at that particular point in time. The officers perceive something, but what we have to do is look at the reality of things, and the reality of the law is, based on my findings and what I've looked at in the video, that the officer did not have the cause to make a physical arrest on this individual.
To be clear, is it illegal for someone in the neighborhood to record any interaction that happens with police?
It is not illegal to record. The advice that I would give somebody is to make sure you do it from a safe distance. Do it from a safe distance, and you obviously cannot physically interfere with a police officer doing their business, conducting a lawful arrest. In this case, they were trying to effect an arrest of an individual who they had initially encountered. This individual happened to come out of his residence out of concern, and he certainly tried to record, which is not illegal. And in this case, he did not, based on what I've seen thus far, he did not physically interfere or physically intimidate those officers to effect that arrest. This is preliminary. The investigation is still going to occur, but that's what I find at this particular point in time.
Chief, with the arrest of the first gentleman, some people are saying the force was excessive or violent. When you look at the video, is there any points you think are questionable, or is that something you're looking into as far as your investigation?
That's something I'm looking to as far as the investigation. Based on everything that have seen right now within the video, we have ordered the professional standards section to take a look at that incident as well as a subsequent arrest of the second individual. But that will be part of the investigation.
Can you talk about what may lead to the use of pepper spray? I know it seemed like there was an altercation, there was some wrestling in the video that we saw. Can you talk about what can lead to something like that?
Yeah, an individual not complying, putting their hands behind their back. Certainly, pepper spray can be utilized to try to gain control of the situation. In this case, pepper spray was utilized, and I think at that point the individual stated he could not breathe. So certainly, pepper spray has done that before, where it tries to allow the officer to try to take control of the situation at a particular point in time.
It seemed like you guys had a pretty speedy response to start an investigation. Can you talk about why it was important to have this press conference here today?
Well, I think it's important. One, as we saw the cause on social media, the video was going viral around social media. I received a couple phone calls myself from people in the community, and it's important for me to be transparent and take a look at this and get in front of it. One of the things that I did was me and several members of my command staff, we did come in this morning to take a look at the video, to review reports, and based on that, I find that there was not enough to substantiate a charge of obstructing government administration in the second degree, nor was there enough to substantiate the subsequent charge of resisting arrest that comes along with it. Again, the message to the public is it's okay to record. I welcome the video. The video helps me make determinations, as they did this morning. When we're right, I'll stand up here and say we're right. When we're wrong, I'll stand up here and say we are wrong. Again, it's the interpretation of the officer at that particular point in time. And what I have to do is, when the situation's kind of calmed down, I have a little bit more time to look at the situation than the officer on the street. And, the officer's perception, I have to marry that with what the reality is of the law. And if it doesn't match up, if it doesn't marry up, then we have to do what we have to do to ensure that we're doing the right thing. And part of this press conference is being transparent.
The complaint of pain by the 21-year-old that happened during arrest?
Correct.
And was anywhere specific or just from?
I think it was just the hand. Yeah. So he went to the hospital. He was treated and released, and so did the officer as well, who was treated for the bite.
We don't have instances like these often, but from your standpoint, how difficult is it, to go back and do what you did here today?
Well, I mean, it's not difficult at all. I mean, it's doing what's right. You know, I think there was an article in the Democratic Chronicle this morning that said that, you know, the RPD does a pretty good job at, you know, policing its own. And I think I can speak for the year and a little bit that I've been in charge of the department that we have done just that. You know, we do a lot of great work in this community. We have many encounters throughout the year within this community. Is every encounter that we're going to get going to be absolutely right? Absolutely not. But it's important that when we do not get it right, that we come here and come to the forefront and say, you know, we could look and see how we could have done things better. You know, that's why we have training bulletins. That's why we have policies and procedures to look and see, you know, what went right, what went wrong, and what we can kind of improve on.
And for those people at home, you know, about those policies and procedures, what does it look like internally for those officers going forward in a situation like this? How do we prevent something like this from occurring again?
Well, I think part of it is, you know, we're always looking to train. You know, if we need to do some sort of remedial with regards to the officer, then that's what we'll do. You know, there's certain layers of reviews throughout the organization, and that's exactly what occurred this morning. There was a layer of review, and like I said, police officers have to make split-second decisions on the street during volatile situations, and this appeared to be, relative to the subsequent arrest, a policy violation at this point, procedure. So I think it was important for me to kind of take a look. You know, obviously I have an opportunity to not be in the volatile situation, but that's part of the review. I think we come here, we're transparent about it, and part of our being transparent is me consulting with the district attorney and making a recommendation that we do not pursue the charges of obstructing government administration and resisting arrest, because it's okay for people to record, and as long as they don't physically intervene or any type of physical intimidation, then we're okay with that. You know.
Will there be any discussion or education with the officers involved with the second arrest?
Well, that'll be part of the investigation, but certainly there will be some sort of review.
And was it the officer who was bit? Was he the one who used the pepper spray, or?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point. I know pepper spray was used. I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that.
And then the video we saw, was it 3 officers standing over the one gentleman? Was it 3
Correct.
officers who initially responded, or?
Yes. Yep.
And the first gentleman, was he already in the process of being arrested when he bit the police officer?
Yes.
So
Yes.
he is charged with he's at risk?
Yes, he was charged with assault in the 2nd degree. And, you know, obviously the officer's initial encounter was worried about his well-being. So that's what prompted the officers to sought their attention to this individual who was walking down the street erratically in the middle of the street, as well as, you know, smashing the Hennessy bottle. And that's what kind of brought the officers' attention, who were already in the area on another job, and they wanted to check on the well-being of this individual. And then that's how this subsequently unfolded.
So he smashed the bottle before officers got there?
The officers were there, but the officers were down the street, and the officers were monitoring his behavior, walking erratically and saying things. And what I said earlier, what he said, you can tell clearly based on the video that I saw, this individual appeared to be under some sort of distress, might have been in some sort of crisis, and that's what drew the officers to this individual from the get-go. And then at that point, you know, while trying to take him into custody, there was a scuffle that ensued, and then that's when one of the officers was bitten, and the officer was treated and released. And then that's where the subsequent arrest resulted.
Is he stable now, the one who was arrested?
Stable.
Meaning, it seems like there was some mental, I don't want to assume, you know, is he better now?
I'm not sure. I can't answer that question based on, you know, certain violations of law.
Were there any sort of drug or alcohol related? I know you said he was under some sort of distress, and then he had Hennessy bottle.
I think, you know, that's not for me to comment on. I think that'll have to be coming out in part of the investigation.
Did police think that he was a danger to anybody, or just?
Well, I think certainly his actions prompted the officers to look into the situation a little further. And, you know, the officers did take the appropriate actions in addition to the criminal charges that they lodged against the individual at that particular point in time. But the whole incident is going to be under review by the professional standards section, which I did order that as part of the investigation.
And I know what you said, obviously, you look at things coming forward saying when you do something right, say, there could be some wrong about, say, I mean, do you think, looking at how they approached the man or handled it up to the point where this struggle happened, I mean, do you think they were doing things the right way?
Well, I think that that'll be a part of the investigation. I don't want to get ahead of the investigation, but based on what I saw, the subsequent arrests did not appear to be handled in the manner that will warrant the charges that were brought against this individual. The initial arrest will have to be looked at as well, and that'll be part of the overall review. But based on things that I've seen in the video, so that'll have to be part of the initial review. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.
Have a good afternoon.
Me too.